I am an old landscape designer, but a young environmental activist. Because after designing gardens in far-flung places for going on 40 years, I started the Perfect Earth Project to promote chemical-free lawns and landscapes. It is not exactly what I had in mind for retirement, but it was probably inevitable because of all the beautiful places that I've worked in, there's nothing quite like home. The amazing East End of Long Island where I live, it's my sanctuary, it's my inspiration, it's my garden, and I'm never going to leave. So when signs of distress started appearing in our local water bodies, it was distressing in this place that I love. And I got thinking about what my profession might be contributing to the problem. And I wondered what my role could be toward contributing to the solution. And so this adventure began. I have never used chemicals like synthetic fertilizers or pesticides on my own property, maybe a couple of tiny slips away in the past, but so I just really didn't know anything about them. And I decided that, well, I would ask my clients if they would experiment with me, what would happen if we stopped using chemicals on their properties? So they set a higher bar at their places than I do at my own. And it worked. And I really learned a lot. I learned that people put amazing amounts of chemicals on their properties. And I learned that, in fact, 2 to 4 times more pesticides are applied to landscapes in the United States per square foot than agriculture. I learned that 75% of the raindrops in the world have glyphosates in them. This is the herbicide that's most often sold as Roundup. And that these chemicals are not only bad for our environment, they're really bad for us. They cause cancers and autism and asthma and endocrine disruption, nervous system disorders. They're especially bad for pregnant women, pets, children. Journal of the National Institute of Cancer has reported that the incidence or the potential for childhood leukemia is 7 times higher in homes that use pesticides in the house and garden, and that dogs have twice the risk of canine lymphoma in homes that use herbicides on their lawns and gardens. But it's not all bad news, because the other thing I learned is that we absolutely don't need them. We just don't need toxic chemicals to have a really beautiful landscape, beautiful gardens that are healthier, actually, and maybe more beautiful. And it is not more difficult, and it is not more expensive, and it's way more interesting. And so if this is the case, if you can do this, why doesn't everybody do it? What's stopping people? Well, is it fear of dandelions? And yeah, actually, in a way it is, because there's a tremendous amount of peer pressure. That peer pressure has been fueled by very effective marketing campaigns. But there's also a fear of change and a fear of failure. And because in the end, I think that it's not our landscapes that are addicted to chemicals, it's us. And I think the way it all began is after World War II, when a highly traumatized, probably PTSD society birthed the American suburb and then the American lawn. It was a security blanket. It was this even, green, totally smooth and totally controlled space, this safe space. And it was made really easy by the fact that there were chemicals available to do this, these newly available, very affordable chemicals. And so it became the way everybody did things, and by now, it's the only way we know how. We basically know how to suppress or kill everything that we don't need, and we know how to artificially stimulate everything we like. Because the environment has been damaged, but there are certain plants, not that many, that we decide we will keep. And it's very hard now to tell home gardeners and landscape professionals to give up these chemicals upon which they have become so dependent. Asking them to do that does engender a certain amount of fear, because from the past, they were told that these chemicals, were fine. What they were doing was good, and it was safe. Who knew that they were actually being absorbed through our skin, and they accumulate in our bodies, and they wreak havoc with our immune and digestive, and our endocrine and nervous systems? Nobody knew. And so we're learning now, though, because everybody thought that if these amazing chemicals that could just kill everything but grass in a lawn could be so target-specific that they just killed certain plants, and they just killed insects, and they just killed fungus problems, they weren't going to be harmful to humans. But now we know they are, and now we know a lot more about why. The reason why is interesting, because we're learning more about our gut biome. The trillions of bacteria and insects and fungi that reside in our body, they actually outnumber our human cells by 10 to 1, and they rule. Without them, your digestive system and your immune system are not going to work. And all the great things they do for us, they are doing in the soil for plants. So it stands to reason that if you're applying chemicals that kill bacteria and insect and fungi, they're going to be pretty disastrous for the biome, and therefore bad for us. So people are getting to know a lot more about their food. They're more careful. They realize that chemicals may be bad, and they're paying attention to what's going in their bodies. But they may not be thinking yet about what they're putting on their landscapes, which is also going in their bodies. Maybe they haven't thought. So, if you're thinking about your food and you're eating organic food, why not have an organic lawn? Why not have an organic landscape? Chances are you've been told that it's really expensive and it doesn't work. Well, this can be true if all you do is take organic products, which are more expensive, and you replace the chemical, toxic ones, but you don't change your behavior. What we're proposing, the new way to do it, is you use nature's resources. You use a natural process. It's not about a product. It's about a process. So you look at natural resources and you build the soil biome using natural processes, using wise use of resource, understanding the way plants grow, and how to water. And so people think, oh, these new chemical-free landscapes are really like a wild mess. I mean, I'm going to have something that looks terrible. And it's just not so. However, we do have a revolution going on in the way we manage and look at our landscapes, and it's what we need in order to move away from chemicals. So this revolution is is somewhat embodied in the High Line, and this is the Brooklyn Bridge Park, where people just love these new landscapes, and they are filled with plants formerly known as weeds. And yet, they're vibrant, they're lush, they're alive, and other public spaces around the world are starting to follow their lead because people respond to them. They can feel the difference. And they're great ideas that they can easily take home and repeat themselves without chemicals. It's not difficult. And then people say, yeah, but you can't have a lawn. You can't grow a lawn without chemicals. Well, once again, not so. The lawn does have to be taller. You have to mow it higher, 3.5 to 4 inches, because that extra leaf blade, those tall, lush leaf blades, they can support deep, resilient roots. They also shade the soil, so you need less water, and they outcompete weeds, so you don't need weed control. Now, clover's gotten a really bad rap, but that's another whole story about marketing. But clover fixes nitrogen, and so it replaces the need for fertilizers. And while you're at it, you could consider, of course, less lawn. So why have lawn you don't need, that you don't actually use? What about an area rug instead of wall-to-wall? And then you can fill all that extra space with native plants. They were born here. They were just doing fine before we got here, and they really don't need much from you to thrive. And what about the grass clippings? Could you leave them on your lawn? They're free food. We are sending all our grass clippings and our leaves and our other biomass to the dump. Leaves can be mulch mode and used in place of buying mulch on your beds. In fact, we are now sending so much to the dump that 20% of our national landfills are landscape waste, which is a total waste, because all of that biomass, that's the food your landscape made for itself. That's the best food it could have, and it's free. So the other thing people worry about is bugs. So are you going to have a lot of bugs? Well, don't I need to spray for bugs? My goodness. Well, no, because you will have more bugs. Mostly, they'll be good bugs, the good bugs that are also killed by sprays. And maybe you would think that you should kill this bug as an example. That this is actually the larval form of a ladybug. Ladybugs eat aphids. But if you decided, well, aphids are bad, I should spray all the aphids. So if you sprayed all the aphids, what would ladybugs eat? You have to, it's actually, there's a really nice balance going on out there. If you sprayed your trees and shrubs at the first sign of a caterpillar, what are birds going to feed their babies? Caterpillars are the primary food source for young songbirds. And if you're buying plants that nurseries tell you nothing eats the leaves, you're contributing to the fact that our backyards are becoming virtual food deserts, not virtual, actual food deserts, and our songbird populations are in a corresponding decline. So think about this. Plants were made to be eaten. It's like your salad garden. But they can all sustain a tremendous amount of leaf loss, surface loss, before it harms them at all. Every year, willingly, they feed the cycle of life. So the ones who are bothered most by a few nibbles on a leaf, it's us, and the people who sell us the sprays. So maybe the next time you see a little nibbling, you could try our 10-step process. The 10-step program is take 10 big steps back. Problem solved. But the biggest thing in the world of the new world of natural process landscape management is the soil and the soil biome. If you use chemicals, you're killing the soil biome. And the soil biome contains the microbes that give plants the natural systems that help them resist diseases and insects. They can actually create their own insect resistance systems so that they don't lose more leaf surface than they can actually bear to lose. As soon as you start adding chemicals and killing the microbes, the plant's abilities to sustain themselves, their resilience is seriously impacted. And then they do need more chemicals. So this nasty cycle of chemical dependency is born. However, they're not like people. They don't need rehab. Cut the chemicals, just start using good maintenance practices. The plants will be fine. As I said, it's us. We are the ones who are addicted, not the plants. So go out into your landscape and think about, well, how could I maybe look at this differently? And how could I change what I'm doing a little bit? Could I let nature make some of the decisions? Could I slow down and let the natural process perhaps take care of some of the problems that I'm racing to fix with chemicals? So as an example, think about the use of Roundup on driveways to kill weeds. It's what I hear mostly is the things that people use Roundup for. Well, what if you switched to vinegar to kill the weeds in your driveway? Works just great. But you could take it one step farther. You could rethink your driveway and use nothing at all. Much simpler. And what about rethinking your landscape? What about allowing plants to achieve the shapes that Mother Nature made for them? My favorite landscapes are designed by nature, not by designers, not by me. I'm not crazy about landscapes that take one kind of plant, monocultures, single species, shove them into groups, clip everything into shape, and then freeze it all in time. It's like a bad facelift. And so, what about letting things go? So, I'm asking today, you're probably all here on this beautiful day, indoors, listening to me, because you're suffering from a low grade, or maybe more, of eco-anxiety. And so, I'm offering an antidote. So you can do something major for the environment, for your family, for your pets, for free, and it's right outside your door. If all of us working together were to stop using chemicals, we would, without changing a single law, without pushing against the environment, just all by ourselves, make an amazing impact. So I'm suggesting you make a vow to a place you love to do it no harm. But it has to be a really serious vow. So, you've been living together, you're getting married, no cheating. And it may be tempting, but you're going to find a way. And in the finding of that way, the relationship gets so much more deeper and more interesting. And then, if you would, take this commitment out into the world. Everywhere you go, ask, is this place safe? And so I'm just going to ask all of you now, close your eyes maybe, think about the place you love, and make the commitment. Thank you.